Chris Brown, famous singer, dancer, and entertainer, has often found his career shadowed by legal troubles. Despite his undeniable talent and chart-topping hits, controversy has followed him for years, making headlines as much for his personal life as for his music. Now he faces a new lawsuit, not over his music or performances, but an alleged dog attack that took place at his Tarzana, California home, a quiet suburb suddenly thrust into the spotlight. The plaintiff, a former housekeeper known as Jane Doe, claims Brown's large Caucasian shepherd mauled her while she was simply taking out the trash. She describes the dog as aggressive and intimidating and says the attack happened without warning. According to Jane Doe, the attack left her with severe, disfiguring injuries that required emergency medical attention. She is now seeking millions in damages, citing not only her mounting medical bills but also the pain, trauma, and suffering she says she continues to endure. The case centers on whether Brown was negligent in controlling his dog and ensuring the safety of people on his property. Did he do enough to protect those who worked for him, or did he ignore clear risks? Jane Doe's lawyers argue Brown failed to control a dangerous animal, insisting he should be held responsible for what happened. Meanwhile, Brown's legal team strongly denies any liability, claiming the housekeeper ignored posted warnings and entered a restricted area. But the legal fight has expanded beyond the dog attack itself. The courtroom has become a battleground for both sides, with each trying to shape the narrative in their favor. The housekeeper's lawyers want to introduce evidence from Brown's past, including previous controversies and legal issues, hoping to sway the jury's perception of his character and responsibility. Brown's team, however, is fighting to keep the focus strictly on the incident at hand, arguing that past mistakes should not influence the outcome of this specific case. The outcome remains uncertain, but the trial is sure to keep the public's attention. One of the most controversial pieces of evidence the housekeeper's lawyers are fighting to introduce is Chris Brown's infamous 2009 assault on Rihanna. This incident, which made international headlines and forever changed both artists' public images, continues to cast a long shadow over Brown's legal battles, even more than a decade later. The housekeeper's legal team argues that bringing up this past assault is crucial. They claim it demonstrates a clear pattern of violent behavior, which they believe is directly relevant to the current case involving the alleged dog attack. In their view, the jury deserves to see the full context of Brown's history. On the other hand, Brown's lawyers are adamant that this evidence is not only irrelevant, but also highly prejudicial. They argue that mentioning the Rihanna case would unfairly sway the jury against Brown, making it impossible for him to get a fair trial based solely on the facts at hand. According to Brown's defense, the 2009 assault has no direct connection to the alleged dog attack. They insist that bringing it up is simply an attempt to damage Brown's character and distract from the actual details of the case currently before the court. Now, the legal battle has reached a critical point. Should the jury be allowed to hear about Brown's troubled past, or should their focus remain strictly on the events surrounding the alleged dog attack? The judge's decision on this matter could shape the entire outcome of the trial. This heated debate highlights a larger issue in celebrity trials: the difficulty of separating a star's public image and past controversies from the specific facts of a new case. For Chris Brown, Rihanna's name continues to haunt the courtroom, raising questions about justice, reputation, and the power of public memory. Both sides are using established legal strategies, drawing on years of courtroom experience and precedent. The housekeeper's team wants punitive damages, arguing Brown's past shows a disregard for safety and responsible behavior. They may also seek to use his felony conviction to challenge his credibility if he testifies in his own defense. Brown's lawyers counter that only evidence directly related to the dog attack should be allowed in court. They warn that introducing the Rihanna incident would distract the jury and create a trial within a trial, complicating matters. Their goal: keep the case focused on the alleged negligence, not Brown's history or unrelated past events. The judge's decision on admissibility could shape the entire trial and determine what the jury ultimately hears. Chris Brown's legal battles often involve intense efforts by his attorneys to keep details of his controversial past out of the courtroom, hoping to ensure that each case is judged on its own merits rather than on public opinion or previous incidents. Even when judges take steps to limit such evidence, Brown's history is so widely publicized that it's nearly impossible to find jurors who aren't aware of his reputation, making true impartiality a significant challenge for the court. The housekeeper's lawyers are counting on the fact that public perception of Brown's past will influence the jury, while Brown's legal team is determined to rely strictly on legal standards and the specific facts of this case to defend him. The pre-trial battle over what evidence the jury will be allowed to hear is absolutely crucial, as it could shape the entire direction of the trial. If the judge decides to allow evidence related to the Rihanna incident, Brown's position could be severely undermined before the trial even begins, as the jury may be swayed by his past actions rather than focusing solely on the current allegations. On the other hand, if such evidence is excluded, the case remains a straightforward negligence suit about a dog attack, allowing the jury to focus only on the facts at hand and not be distracted by unrelated controversies. Ultimately, the outcome of this case will hinge on what the jury is permitted to consider, and on whether Chris Brown's complicated past continues to shape his present, both inside and outside the courtroom, in the eyes of the public and the law.